A private airport runway under scorching midday sun, a luxury jet worth tens of millions sat silent, motionless. The lead engineer shook his head. The pilot shut down the systems. Frustrated, a female billionaire stepped down. Her heels clicked on concrete. An important meeting was waiting. No one dared say there was hope. At the edge of the runway, a struggling mechanic stood quietly. Oil-stained clothes, worn boots. He looked at the engine, listened carefully. He took one step forward. Someone laughed mockingly. And just minutes later, every eye on that runway froze in complete shock. Lucas Meyer was 42 years old, an aircraft mechanic, a single dad raising his 10-year-old son, Noah. Lucas had once been exceptional, one of the top technicians at a major airline. Sharp instincts, steady hands, the kind of mechanic pilots requested by name. But that was 5 years ago, before the accident, before everything fell apart. It hadn't been his fault. A senior engineer had signed off on a repair Lucas had flagged as incomplete. Lucas had documented his concerns, filed the paperwork, followed protocol. But when the aircraft developed problems mid-flight, someone needed to take the blame. And Lucas was the easiest target, not senior enough to fight back, not connected enough to be protected. The airline terminated him quietly. No public announcement, no explanation. Just a severance check and a file that had been quietly marked in the industry database. After that, no major carrier would hire him. His resume went into black holes. His calls went unreturned. The whisper network in aviation was small and efficient. Once you were marked, you stayed marked. So Lucas survived on contract work, temporary gigs, fill-in positions, jobs that paid cash and asked few questions. He fixed small planes at regional airports, worked overnight shifts at cargo facilities, did whatever kept food on the table, and paid Noah's school fees. Today, he'd been hired for auxiliary work at a private airport, the kind of place where corporate jets landed, where the wealthy came and went without ever seeing people like him. His job was simple: stay in the maintenance area, handle basic tasks, don't interact with clients, don't approach the premium aircraft. Lucas understood the rules. He wore his old uniform, the one from his previous job with the patches removed. The sleeves were patched, the fabric worn thin at the elbows. He looked exactly like what he was, someone who'd been pushed to the margins. The other mechanics barely acknowledged him. The lead engineers didn't bother learning his name. He was just temporary labor, invisible. That's how he preferred it anyway. Less attention meant fewer questions. Lucas was checking inventory in the maintenance shed when he heard the commotion. Raised voices on the runway, the distinct sound of a jet engine that wouldn't turn over. He walked to the edge of the restricted area, stayed behind the yellow line, watched from a distance. A sleek corporate jet sat on the tarmac, brand new by the look of it. Gulfstream G650, top of the line, $50 million easy. The boarding stairs were down. A woman stood at the bottom, mid-40s, impeccably dressed, designer suit, heels that cost more than Lucas made in a month. Even from a distance, he could see the anger in her posture. Evelyn Cross. Lucas recognized her from business news, CEO of a multinational investment firm, known for hostile takeovers and ruthless efficiency. She just purchased this jet last month. It had been all over the aviation trade publications. The lead engineer was gesturing, explaining something. Evelyn wasn't listening. She was looking at her watch, making calls. Her body language screamed urgency. Lucas could see the pilot in the cockpit, running through restart procedures. Nothing. The engine stayed silent. The lead engineer opened an access panel, checked connections, ran diagnostics on a tablet, shook his head. From where Lucas stood, he could hear fragments of conversation. System failure, unknown cause. Need to bring in specialists, could take hours, maybe days. Evelyn's voice carried across the tarmac, sharp, demanding. I have a board meeting in 3 hours, in another city. This is unacceptable. The engineer had no good answers. His team huddled, checking manuals, making calls, looking increasingly desperate. Lucas watched, listened, and then he heard it. A sound so faint most people would miss it. A slight irregularity in the auxiliary power unit. Not the main engines, something smaller. Something in the startup sequence. He'd heard that sound before. Years ago. On a different aircraft. A different problem that presented the same symptom. Lucas knew what it was, knew how to fix it, but he also knew his place. He was auxiliary staff. He wasn't authorized to approach premium aircraft. Wasn't supposed to offer opinions. Wasn't supposed to exist beyond his assigned duties. He should stay quiet, stay invisible, do his job and go home. But that sound, that specific frequency, it meant something. And if he was right, the fix was simple. 30 seconds, maybe less. Lucas looked at the jet, looked at Evelyn pacing, looked at the engineers scratching their heads. He thought about Noah, about the rent due next week, about the careful balance of staying employed while staying invisible. Then he thought about what his father had taught him before he died, before Lucas became a single parent, before everything got complicated. If you can fix it, fix it. The rest is just noise. Lucas took a breath, stepped across the yellow line, and walked toward $50 million worth of grounded aircraft, toward a billionaire who had no idea who he was, toward engineers who would see him as an intruder, his boots scuffed against concrete, his uniform shabby against the gleaming jet. And every step felt like walking toward either salvation or disaster. He just wasn't sure which. The lead engineer saw Lucas first. His expression shifted from confusion to irritation in half a second. "Excuse me, this is a restricted area." Lucas stopped a few feet from the jet, kept his voice respectful. Neutral. "I know. I heard the engine. I think I might know what's wrong." The engineer's eyebrows rose, almost amused. "You think you know?" It wasn't a question. It was dismissal wrapped in politeness. Another engineer turned around, looked Lucas up and down, took in the patched uniform, the oil stains, the worn boots. "Who are you?" the second engineer asked. "Lucas Meyer. I'm auxiliary maintenance. I was hired for auxiliary." The first engineer cut him off. "So you're here to change light bulbs and sweep hangars." Lucas felt the heat rise in his face, but he kept his voice level. "I'm a certified aircraft mechanic. I have experience with this model, and I think the problem is in the APU starter relay." The second engineer laughed, actually laughed. "The APU? We've already checked that. This is a fuel system issue, way above your pay grade." Lucas shook his head slowly. "It's not fuel. If it was fuel, you'd see different indicators. The sound it's making suggests..." "The sound?" The first engineer's tone was openly mocking now. "You're diagnosing a $50 million aircraft by sound?" "Yes," Lucas said simply, "because that's how you catch things the diagnostics miss." A third engineer had joined them, older, more senior. He looked at Lucas with something between pity and contempt. "Son, we appreciate your enthusiasm, but this isn't a prop plane. This is precision engineering. We have computer systems, diagnostic equipment, factory-certified protocols." He gestured at his tablet. "We don't fix things by ear anymore." Lucas wanted to argue, wanted to explain that computers only told you what they were programmed to detect. That experience and instinct still mattered. That some sounds meant specific things no diagnostic could catch. But he could see it was pointless. These men had already decided who he was, what he was worth, and it was nothing. Evelyn had been on her phone, but now she was walking toward them, her heels sharp against the tarmac. She looked at Lucas.